So BTC's trading at 63,300. Did we just see them come and close the CME gap with some weird little headline on Robinhood or something? We're going to look at that shortly. And now we are watching these AI tokens while NVIDIA is pumping on the S&P. These AI tokens have really held this little pullback on BTC. So we're going to be looking at AI tokens closely here because this is still our play for the next few days. So we're going to pay attention to these AI tokens. Then I'm bringing out a couple of setups for you that I think might play out in the next couple of days. Then I've got Solana, I've got AVAX, I've got a stack of things for you guys. It's Monday. Let's see how this is going to play out this week. Let's get right into this. So a nice little mixed bag on Banter Bubbles. After, 3 or 4 days of greenness, it makes sense that we get a little bit of a pullback. You weren't buying the top, were you, at these resistance zones? Well, hopefully you weren't. I did give you guys a nice little warning last night if you picked up my show that I did. We were looking at some big resistance zones that we had to pay attention to. But what is showing strength now today? This Solana is looking very interesting to me. So based on what it's done in the last couple of hours, I thought definitely we have to bring this one into the party here for you guys. So I'm looking at Sol today. This is going to be a big one for us that we can play with. And Ray's just actually whispered in my ear that Injective has been bouncing. And when I see Injective, I start getting PTSD on things like Celestia as well, because I know these things like to sort of run in pairs. But maybe if we get an opportunity here, we're going to look at Injective as well. So let's just see what these guys have just tried to do to us with BTC. So they try to sweat us out. They came with a little headline. If you guys were wondering why things started falling over in the last, say, 45 minutes, a little bit of news came out and they just try to flush it. But quite coincidentally, and isn't it always such a coincidence that they drop these type of news headlines and things like that, and then they conveniently close the CME gap while NVIDIA is pumping, the S&P is pumping, and all these things. So another bit of potentially orchestrated moves there from the guys, the guys upstairs. And anyway, what are they doing now? They are now trying to reclaim this current previous support level. So what I would suggest here, watch the current low after this dump, 62,950. Watch 62,950 now as your current support level. That's what I'm paying attention to. Then a little bit lower, we cannot ignore the 382. And wouldn't that be beautiful if we get a little 382 move onto trend here for a little bounce on BTC? So that is at 62K for me. So these are two big areas that I would pay attention to right now. If the wheels really come off later today, and they're going to really have to come off here. This S&P is going to have to reverse. NVIDIA might need to fall over and things like that. Then you are looking at 60K. So mark the 60K on your charts. This is always going to be a level in play for us in the next few days anyway. So keep that on your charts. 60K, 62K, and then the lows of this candle, 62,950. Watch that one. And with regards to upside, what is the play here? Well, you can see they've actually front ran this 50-day moving average. And you saw last night when I was showing you guys, this has started to come into play with so many altcoins. And we're seeing a lot of rejections in these zones with some of the alts. So it's quite interesting that they're all moving together into this 50-day MA region. And there's definitely going to be some fireworks when we start blowing these 50-day moving averages. So something exciting is brewing in the air if we can just break through that. But as far as we are concerned right now, this 50-day MA, 66K, this is our big level that we need to pay attention to. It's got tie in here on a 618 fib as well. And we've got horizontal tie-in. So what does that tell us? That tells us it's a massive area. You don't just blow through that on your first attempt. You come there, you knock on the door, maybe they slap you around, you go back down, then you go back again. And sometimes you need to take a few looks at those type of areas before you eventually pop over. But once you do, then this is going to be a beautiful bit of support that we can start playing with. And it's going to tie in nicely, I'm sure, to some beautiful fibs there once we blow that. And we're going to look to launch off those type of areas. I see BG says 6170 is his number. This man is trying to be accurate here. And Dylan's beard was sculpted by Zeus himself. Indeed it was. I had an appointment. That's what it's all about. You won't believe it. I freshly oiled this beard for you guys as well a couple of minutes ago. Okay, let's see what is going on here in the news. So this is what's happening. I don't know if this is just pure coincidence, but I see Marty Party. He says Robinhood receives a Wells notice, basically legal action. The SEC is accusing them of things, and enough to create some kind of sell-off here. So you can see this was dropped at around 5 p.m. So maybe that news came out around 4:30. You might have noticed the S&P was going up, but Bitcoin was going down, and you were getting rinsed on your 20 and 30x leverage longs that you were longing at the top. Well, this is exactly how they rinsed you. They dropped some news like that. So just an interesting one to note. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but basically picking a fight with Robinhood, nice little headline, push it a little bit lower. And I found this one pretty good. Bitcoin Magazine, MicroStrategy now owns more Bitcoin than any country in the world. I mean, is this a problem? I don't know. To me, it feels like a problem. It's not like, we're kind of less decentralized then. If the whole world's economy that everyone believes, well, any Bitcoin maxi believes, we're moving to BTC, and now Michael Saylor owns fucking 214,000 of these things. So a little bit of an interesting thing. Maybe just I wouldn't say concern, but I mean, the man owns more than China. I mean, what is going on here? And I found this picture of him actually grabbing your Bitcoin. So remember, every time you sell your Bitcoin, he's actually got his arm. He's got an arm coded into TradingView, and he actually just grabs your Bitcoin every time you try and sell it. So just remember this picture, and remember this man's eyes. Whenever you buckle and you start flipping your Bitcoin and selling your Bitcoin, you are giving it to this man, and he'll take it. He'll take it all day long. He takes more Bitcoin than China wants to take. I mean, Ray, I actually can't deal with this. The man owns more Bitcoin than China. Imagine owning more Bitcoin than China. I mean, fuck me.
Impressive.
So I was saying today, on Twitter, follow me on Twitter at the Lord of Entry. I'm posting tons of alpha and, a couple of chirps here and there as well. But I was saying today, are we not scared anymore? Remember, this fear and greed index just a few days ago was sitting in the 40s. Okay, everyone was shitting themselves. We thought we were going lower. We had Jerome Powell pumping the market, then he was sending it back down, and everyone was terribly scared. And now we're back at 70. So, is this bear market now over? Is everybody super overconfident now? What is the current plan here? And the 71, it's interesting to me because we've seen this thing churning at 80, 90, those type of levels. So this could be the start of a nice, almost euphoric move, maybe in some of the altcoins as well, and a push on BTC. So just pay attention to this thing, and we'll keep monitoring the situation. But interesting that it moved so quickly. And just something notable, I was wondering the other day. I mean, the Satoshi era Bitcoin address wakes up after 10 years. Okay, I mean, imagine the amount of dead guys that have lost their keys, or dead people that have lost their keys. Imagine the amount of Bitcoin that is just sitting there in wallets that are never going to be recovered again. So if you think Bitcoin's got a limited supply, I mean, it's even more limited by the guys that are never going to actually open their wallets again. So, just make sure you keep your keys. Make sure you give someone at some point access to your wallet. You don't want a situation where you got 50 BTC in a wallet and they all sort of, they just sit there till the end of time. They never get used. So make sure your lawyer, your gran, somebody has access to something in case something happens to you. Just make a plan about that. And then I was just looking at the liquidity map earlier today. And if you look on the 30-day basis here, we've got over $10 billion of liquidity if they want to push Bitcoin back to this all-time high region. So things are looking interesting here. You can see this chart here. The shorts are outweighing the longs, and there's more value to the upside for these guys if they want to go and pump it all the way back to these all-time high levels. So watching this area very closely, and there's a couple of signs that are interesting to me as to why I think Bitcoin's next move is going to be to this all-time high level, to the 70 to 75K region. And number one, I want to pull out for you guys is this hammer candle that everybody is going on about. Crypto is obsessed with the look of these candles. And Tony the Bull Severino, he's actually just put this quite nicely. He says every higher swing low in Bitcoin since November 22 was a weekly hammer candle. Okay, so he's saying, is this time different? Okay, and what this man is saying is that we are potentially going to push up. If we use history as a guide and we look at the charts as our guide, he's telling us this hammer is a very good indication that this is now the start of the next move or the next push for Bitcoin. So that is the sign number one. That was very interesting to me. And then we had Titan of Crypto also. Everyone's just talking about this amazing candle, but let's not forget, everybody was also talking about that dump candle that we had when Jay Powell pumped the markets and then they dumped it afterwards as well. Everyone was talking about that one too, but it's just interesting now. This has caught the flavor of Twitter, and it's a very bullish sign, obviously, for what is going on out there. And then Matthew Hyland, he had a nice little tweet as well. He says, weekly bull successfully defended support with the first green candle since March. Okay, so that is looking good. He's saying the trend now, the uptrend favors a continuation. Okay, so he's loving the look of the weekly situation at the moment. And then this is definitely going to be helping us. This is the S&P. Now, last night we were talking about an S&P potentially breaking through this 50-day moving average, and this is what they've done now. They've blown the 50-day MA. They've blown this little mini trend that we had in play as well. So this is huge now for the S&P. I would watch this very closely now. Your support level on the S&P has got to be this 5120 level. So watch that now. Nice little gap up here, nice little push on the S&P, and also very similar candle to that Bitcoin candle that everybody is talking about, this little weekly hammer that you can pay attention to. So S&P looking bullish, so that's good. Okay, we've got NVIDIA looking pumping, and we've got crypto looking very good. So the signs are there that we're potentially going to be getting some kind of more bullish move here out of Bitcoin in the next while. So another beautiful indicator for you guys is this MACD. Now, I don't pull this up that often, but some of the guys are talking about this MACD, and it's actually very interesting. The MACD is this indicator here that I've pulled up for you at the bottom, and this is the first time this MACD is turning green with a crossover since roughly the 28th of January. Okay, and what happened the last time we saw something like this happening on the MACD? We had a move. Let's just look at the size of the move. The last time the MACD did this, we had a 70% move on BTC, and you can see what is going on here. This MACD has just turned green, and the oscillator has just started crossing over. So things are looking a little bit interesting here. So there's a couple of signs telling us maybe this time we are going to get some kind of push here. And is this all-time high going to come into play for us? So that is another one that I'm loving at the moment. And then the most obvious for me was this trend. And I've been saying to you guys for the last couple of weeks that we were in this clear downtrend. And until we've broken this trend and we close above this trend, we cannot be super bullish. And right now, we have now broken the trend. And now what we want to do as bulls is we want to hold. Drink the bull tea, bro. Drink the bull tea. Wait, I'm going to actually preempt this. Guys, if you're enjoying the content, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell. There we go, and hit the bull. We're above the trend line, you know what I mean? So there we go. I actually preempted that. I'm very proud of myself here. Okay, so above this weekly trend to remain bullish, and so far so good. We did print a new high, so that is a good start here for us. You can see I've highlighted this region over here. So we did print a new high, 50-day MA rejection, notable. Okay, what do we want to hold? Ideally, any pullbacks here, we want to hold this trend, but as long as we're closing above this trend, for me, is going to keep us bullish. So they can try and bleed us down, maybe ping us on that 618 that I told you about earlier. And as long as they push this up and start closing above this trend, I would say that is a super bullish sign for us. So right now we've got the MACD, we've got that weekly hammer candle, and we've got a trend break. So there are three signs here as to why the situation is potentially turning a little bit more bullish. But that doesn't mean long everything that you can see. You know, you've got to take it easy now, and we're going to go through some of these altcoins. And I just want you guys to promise me that you are taking profits at these resistance areas. I explained it to you last night. I'm going to show you one more time before we jump into these altcoins why I was so serious about taking profits yesterday. So this RSI situation that I did tell you about over the last couple of weeks, let's just pull this up one more time. I want you guys to see this. And we can't get euphoric in these markets. We need to use the information that is always available to us. And I was talking about this for the last for the last week or two. We had this 4-hour RSI bottom down. What did they do? 12% move. The next time they bottomed it down, they got a 13% move. The next time they did it at the bottom here, we got a 12% move. So this is what I was saying to you guys last night. We had the 4-hour bottom out. Look out for roughly a 12% move. And let's just see what they actually gave us. I think they were actually quite generous. They gave us a 15% move. So if you were jumping into longs last night at a 13% move, at a 14% move, at a 15% move, you were trying to beat the history. You were trying to say this time is different. Okay, and obviously sometimes this time is different, but use the chart as a guide. Use what happens in the past to guide you a little bit. So if you were nice and green, some of your trades were long, you were adding to your positions, and then they came and reversed you, and some of these candles were pretty brutal in the last hour or so, then you might have given up a lot of gains. You might have panic sold and done all of these things. So just remember, watch the chart, look at history, maintain your composure, and when you're at big resistance zones and you're at big support zones, that's where you make your plays, and that's where the gains are really made for you guys. Okay, what is going to help our altcoins? It's dominance. Here's dominance on the 4 hour, and right now it's actually just floating around, so not too bad, as far as things go. This was our major weekly trend where we had a big bounce on dominance. This was tied in to that Bitcoin pump, so the altcoins actually enjoyed that. They benefited from that move, and now we've had a nice little horizontal rejection. So look how nicely it's respecting these levels here on this dominance chart. So this is, these levels are very handy now, and they're telling you where you're getting bounces, where you're getting rejections. Now, remember, if a rejection comes in dominance, it means the alts are being favored. If there is a pump in dominance of support, it means Bitcoin is getting favored. Now, that's all fine as long as Bitcoin is pumping. But if Bitcoin is running sideways or Bitcoin is dumping, then your alts are going to get absolutely rinsed. So keep this dominance chart in front of you when you are trading altcoins. Make sure you are paying attention to what dominance is doing. This is a nice 4 hour chart that I've been using, and you can mark these levels on your chart. Just copy these areas and you can see these notable zones. And what I've done here is created a bounce zone where we can potentially bounce. If you lose that area, there's your next potential bounce zone. And you can look at your rejection zone. So these are the areas where you can get relief out of these altcoins. And these are the other areas where you're looking to maybe start taking profits when you're getting these bounce zones on dominance. So look out for these areas. Arabian Panda, juicy coins. Guys, do I really say juicy that badly? Hey, I mean, I know you guys rip me off a lot. Can't actually believe it. They literally rip me off in the chats all the time. They say juicy. Okay, let's look at the big dog ETH, and no surprises here. So if you were trading ETH, this is ETH on the 12 hour. Look at this. We had that Bitcoin fake out into a resistance area, and we had ETH little fake out into a resistance zone. What was my resistance zone? It was my 618 pull. So remember, the 618 comes into play when you're looking for a pullback buy, and it also comes into play when you are looking at a pump in the markets and you're looking for a TP zone. You ideally want a TP at these type of areas, and this made sense because it was tied in with some horizontals as well. So this told us that we were potentially going to get a rejection in a zone like this, and this also then tells you if you are long on your altcoins, that's a TP zone. That's where you raise your stops. That's where you start de-risking and doing things like that. So ETH, nice little rejection here on the 618. What am I watching now? The $3,000 level. For me, this is a big area now. You can see we are reacting at these lows currently, but for me, support $3,000. So until we lose this $3,000 level, I'm going to be staying long ETH at the moment. So when we lose this, then things are looking different, and we're closing candles under 3K, a little bit more bearish, but as long as we're holding this 3K, no reason to do anything here with ETH. Let it ride up, and if this market's going to stay bullish, we should get a bounce here from ETH at around about 3,000. Also a nice psychological level for ETH traders as well to play around on. And then upside, nothing's really changed here. We got to get through and horizontal at 3350. Ray, am I breaking up again?
You did for a second, but all good.
Okay. We keep going. Okay. Let's look at the current AI situation. So, we just had a pullback now on these AI, on crypto. We had a pullback on Bitcoin. We had a pullback on some altcoins. I was sitting in a vet trade. I mean, we had a blood red candle, came bleeding down. I'm going to show you that vet trade shortly. And NVIDIA was really pumping. And these altcoins, these AI tokens love to respond to like a bullish NVIDIA or bullish Apple and things like that. And we were noticing during that pullback, these AI tokens were just hanging around. They weren't getting too badly hammered. So very notable with the strength on NVIDIA, and also extremely notable here, NVIDIA has broken the 50-day MA as well. So we got the S&P blowing the 50-day MA. We got NVIDIA blowing the 50-day MA. Things are definitely starting to turn a little bit bullish out there. And when we get some kind of reversal on NVIDIA, that might be a sign for us to maybe start taking our foot off the gas on some of these AI tokens as well. But remember, there's an announcement or a supposed announcement coming from Apple this week regarding AI tokens. And that's why these things have been churning. That's why they've been looking so good. So you can see if you were trading render or you're sitting in render and we just had that flush out, look at this render candle on the 8-hour versus like VET, for example, that got flushed out quite hard here. Look at VET on the 4-hour. Okay, so that's quite an interesting difference here, the way they held render in this current situation. So what am I looking at now for render? Well, we've got some nice little support zones that we can play with. Number one, we've got horizontals tied in here. So this is telling me that we've got support. Then we've got the 50-day MA as well, pushing in the zone. So if you're currently long render, there's nothing you need to worry about here. 9.44, that is your support base that you want to play around on. Obviously, we've had a turbo green candle here. And, you know, this chart looks like it might want to come back at some point. But your first line of support that you are watching, 9.44. Then your next region of interest and the more realistic level, if they do get a pullback, you're looking at around about 8.9. So watch this 8.9, a nice little bullish pullback zone. So what does it look like? Something along these lines, which they've potentially already given us. Now, if this market's going to carry on from here, we might not visit this for, you know, another day or so. But these are my two hot zones that I'm enjoying at the moment, and we haven't quite tested the highs. Okay, we haven't quite tested our major horizontals. So let's see what happens to render at about 10.5. Let's watch this area here, and remember, once we blow this 10.5, this tells us that the retest of this area could be very bullish here, and it could be giving us an opportunity to then send render to the next level and take the next step up. And I think that's going to be all-time highs. Yes, that's all-time highs there at 13.3. So right now, resistance in the way for render traders. If you are sitting in it, nothing you need to do right now. 9.44 is support number 1. 9 is support number 2. Yes, 9 is support number 2, and then resistance zones. Pay attention here at 10.5. That's a rejection area. That's a spicy zone. But if we blow that, that's support. That is an area then that you can start longing from and taking advantage there. Okay, let's see who's in the chats. Ben Steele says I'm lagging on the alpha.
They're lagging on the likes. That's what's going on.
Guys, we're lagging on the likes. You like my cat? I got a pet cat here in my office. Let's see what else we got. Damien says motorboat chart looks beautiful. Is this man joking? Is he joking, Ray? The motorboat. Let's see what else. Joe Hayden, okay, says Sui. Now, it's quite interesting. I nearly actually brought you guys Sui because there was some news. There's some FUD floating around with Sui, but I opened up the chart and it didn't dump. It didn't really pump. It was just kind of floating around. So Sui wasn't looking that exciting. But if you're interested in Sui, it's sitting on a massive area and it's floating around that 200-day moving average. So if you're interested in Sui and you think there's pumpamentals there, not a bad area that you can start playing with at the moment. I see Thomas is looking for Ocean. I've got Ocean for you guys. It's locked and loaded here. Just give me a sec. I promised you my trades. Okay, here's VET. Okay, so you guys might have noticed, and don't ask me how I ended up in a VET trade. Out of all things, I ended up in a VET trade on Prime XBT. And here is my current VET situation. So I used this dump as an opportunity to add to my VET position. So I've grown it slightly. It's now $27,500. I've just added to it a little bit. Why did I add to that VET position? Well, it started dropping into an area of interest. So when I get into these areas of interest, these are your potential bounce zones. These are the hot zones. And that's where I like to add. So if my stance now on this particular VET trade is that the market is bullish and I'm looking for a bullish bounce, 382 or 618, I've left this VET trade open because my intention here is to try and grow the position. And where am I going to get rinsed on VET? I'm going to get rinsed on VET if we lose our 618 region. So this is the area I'm watching closely on VET. Here's my X, and you can see if we start losing this area, that is where I'm going to start cutting my VET position. So right now I'm long VET. You can see where my entry is at the moment. My average entry is now 0.03511, and we've just banged that 382 fib. So that was an interesting zone. That's why I've added in that region, and then I'm going to add a little bit more at that 618 region, and then they're going to come and rinse me if we lose that 618 area. But my intention here for VET is obviously now to grow the size of the position. If they're going to dip us lower, let me just clean this chart. me just magic away these X's. No, we can't magic away these X's. Hold on. Let's just adjust this back. Okay. I'm going to have to manually magic away the X's here. Okay. So we take these X's out of here. So if this vet is now going to start falling over, this is the first place you look for a bounce. Okay, so we have had bounce number 1. You can see we've had a strong reaction here, trend in 382. And then here is my next area. The 618 is where I'm looking for my next one. You can see the 618 is roundabout flat on my entry. So if we start closing under these levels here, I'm going to start cutting that vet position, because that's telling me then I'm going to start bleeding and into a loss. And I don't really want to be in a loss now on that trade that has pumped so nicely. So that is my current strategy on vet. That is how I'm going to grow it. If you want to trade with me on Prime XBT, you can grab the link in the description. There's a limited offer for you guys, 7% sign up bonus. You can also trade the S&P. You can also trade gold, oil, silver, all these types of things. You can actually see I'm playing around in an S&P trade currently. Let's see if it's still hot. And I see the S&P has been moving up, so we should be okay here. And let's see. Okay, so I'm long 2 S&Ps. And I'm long, it looks like I'm long gold. Woo! Okay, so my S&P, I'm up there $300 odd, and gold, I'm up $51 at the moment. So you can trade with both of these. You just send crypto to Prime XBT, and then you can crack on there and have a little bit of fun. Trade the S&P. Okay, fetch. Here's AI token number 2 for you guys, and I'm still in a fetch trade. And here's my current fetch trade on WEEX, and same story. Here's my fetch trade. I've added to my position now on that current dip, so that is what I'm playing at the moment. And these are my bullish zones. These are my hot zones that I'm now looking at. If fetch is going to pull back, my view is Apple is making some kind of AI announcement. NVIDIA is pumping the market as a whole. And I've shown you those 3 reasons why it's potentially bullish now. So if it's going to be bullish, these are the areas that I'm looking to potentially add to fetch. And these are the areas I'm expecting fetch to bounce on. If not, well, then we got it wrong, and they're sending us lower. So area number 1 for fetch, 2.28 is what I'm watching. And area number 2 is 2.12. So both of these zones are hot zones for me for fetch. Both of these areas are potential reaction zones. They're both bullish continuation areas. They're bullish pullback zones that I like. And these are the areas I like to add to positions. And these are the areas that I like to add or create new positions. So if I'm not in an entry, these are the types of zones where I look for potential entries on these guys. So look out for fetch. Nice little area here. Trend retest in play, and notable once again, another 50-day moving average coming into play on these altcoins. Make sure you have this 50-day MA on your charts. It's a beautiful indicator. Okay, here it is again for Thomas. Okay, here's Ocean and Thomas 50-day MA. Look at this little rejection. No surprises that we're getting another rejection from another altcoin at the 50-day MA. What have we seen? We've seen ETH, we've seen BTC, we've seen Fetch as well now rejecting. And here's Ocean, 50-day MA rejection currently, and tied into some horizontals. So we know this is a major resistance zone for us. This is a big zone. We don't just blow through this area first time. We got to be kind to it. You got to caress it. You got to be very nice to that area, take it out for dinner, whatever you need to do. And it takes a bit of time in these zones. We got to really crack them. And if we're going to turn bullish, what does this mean for us? It tells us that these areas are going to be solid support zones for when we get a pullback. So ideally, if you are trading Ocean, your big level that you want to watch is around about 0.908. Okay, that is your big one. So if you're sitting in an Ocean long, nothing to panic about until you start losing maybe this 0.908 level. You start losing that, maybe you want to start looking at cutting, because maybe things are turning a bit dark out there and not looking that good. So that is your key support that you want to watch. What do we do if this thing pops higher? Well, it's quite a simple system here. You're going to look for this pop, and you're going to look for this rejection at a nice horizontal zone. So here's an interesting zone where you could get some kind of rejection, and you're looking for something along these lines, a pop higher here and a rejection. Once that happens, then you can start banging out your fibs, and you can start looking for a tie-in. Where you're going to get a tie-in, where you're going to get a potential support zone that's going to work and give you a little bit of confluence that Ocean is going to help you in these regions here. So you're going to look for some kind of support roundabout this 1.03 level, and if they bleed you out, okay, this is now hypothetical because we haven't hit these highs yet. If they bleed you out, this is going to be your next area. You could see a nice little cluster of horizontals, and you've got a nice little tie in there with a potential fib pool as well. So that is how you're going to build this thing if it does pop through that area. But right now, you're at resistance. So if it comes back, look at it as an opportunity. If you are bullish on AI and you're bullish on the market, if they start bleeding you down on fetch and your outlook is bullish, that's where you want to be buying. That's where you want to be getting it. And who's talking about XRP in the chats? Is this allowed, Ray? I don't know. We can't talk about XRP in the chats, bro.
I mean, it just had a 4% pump in 15 minutes.
Do you want me to start streaming with a typewriter? Tie in with XRP. I mean, I don't know. I don't think a typewriter has a screen. But you know, these dust coins. Let's see. Daniel says VET is literally popping out. Poping out. What is he telling us here? What is he telling us here? VET. Oh, there it goes. Look, VET is popping out. There it goes. Let's see if we're alive again on VET. Okay, tiny little green candle. Okay, so yeah, little bounce there on VETs, but we're not out of the woods. We've got a lot of work to do there on this current VET situation. Okay, I've got another one for you, TAO, which is BTC, and this has been another one that I've been trading in the last few days, looking good still. Okay, the trigger here for us was when we reclaimed this 200-day moving average. This was looking good at the time, so it was a nice little move here for us. And now we've got such a beautiful picture here on Tower. It's so clean, it's so clear, and it shows you exactly where your areas are of interest. What are you looking at? So number one, I've got beautiful support here for you guys, round about 428. So let's say this thing drifts for a day or two down into this 428 level, looking for a bounce in that zone. That's a hot area for me. And then a little bit lower down, I'm loving this. It's a 618 tied in with the 200-day MA. So if they're going to come and revisit, remember, ever since they visited that 200-day MA last time, it's now crept higher because the price has moved up. So the 200-day MA is now pushing up. It's creating a new support level that's rising for you. It's a rising support. And it's going to tie in here with the 618, round about 390 to 395. That is your next potential region. Where am I going to exit Tower? For me, if I start losing this 200-day MA, then I'm going to say we're cutting this thing, and the market for me then is not in good shape. If we lose this 200-day, let's say we're closing under this 200-day, I think you'll be looking across the board and you'll probably note that everything is falling over, and it's not really a place you want to be involved in when we start losing these type of levels. And so watch that. That's going to be my level there for me, 395, and currently now anything down 430 could be a nice little scalp as well for you guys. If you are not in a current position, there could be a nice little entry of interest. Okay. Onka, Dylan, fuck XRP, just check ARB. Look, ARB hasn't been that exciting either in the last while. I mean, optimism as well. Optimism might be the biggest disappointment in history, and Arbitrum's also been a little bit slow lately. Rob says, Dylan, what's your thoughts on DOT? Okay, let me show you my thoughts on DOT. Let me show you. I actually tweeted about DOT the other day. I said, hold on, it's coming. I said, what's worse than holding XRP, ADA, DOT, Matic, or Litecoin? So that's basically my thoughts on DOT at the moment. I don't know, XRP's got to be number one shitcoinery in history. And ADA is a close second for me. DOT, I'm a little bit biased now because I've tried to trade DOT so many times and it's always the biggest letdown for me. So lately I steer away from DOT. I steer away from Matic, Litecoin, and those type of things. So that is my current thoughts on DOT, subject to change. If there's a new tech out or something changes on DOT, then I'm interested. I mean, we saw Phantom, which was very quickly moving into shitcoinery status, and they released Sonic. And now they've got a new engine and things are looking good on Phantom, and suddenly we're all trading Phantom again. So, if somebody can come and rescue DOT, then I'll be very interested in looking at DOT. And just on the topic of AI, here's Rodolfo. He helps us in the Sniper Club as well. So he's one of our researchers in the Sniper Club, and he's great on Twitter as well. He's got some great content for you guys. Rodolfo Pozo A, follow him on Twitter. And I said to him, what is he watching in the AI space? If we're bullish on AI, what are we looking at? And he said, well, he's got Netmind. He's loving this NMT. Okay, so I've charted this one actually before for you guys, and it's no longer a micro cap. This thing's turning into a proper new project. I see Aaron says DOT have got new tech out. Do they? Okay, well then maybe we can start trading it. Yeah, Bray, let's get dot on the menu there, bro. Okay, so Netmind looking interesting now. It's a smaller cap, okay, and it's not like one of the majors. So when you're trading an AI narrative, it's very easy. You jump into Ocean, Fetch, Render, you jump into all those majors, and there's a lot of these smaller tokens that sometimes actually produce much bigger moves when they do start kicking. So this Netmind is looking interesting. You can see what's going on here. It's been in a downtrend for a very long time. I mean, it's been in a downtrend since the 6th of March, and slowly now looking to potentially break out. No surprises once again. We've got the 50-day moving average in the way, just above, and really looking forward to these altcoins blowing this 50-day MA. So Netmind is interesting. This would be a spot buy for me. If AI is going to turn bullish, there's definitely going to be a couple of moves here on Netmind. What I'm going to do is just look for potential target areas for you, and you can see immediately why this 50-day MA is a potential target. This is a potential TP zone that you want to be watching. So number one, look at 382 50-day MA. That's a potential zone of interest at 7.75. Then your next area of interest, your next resistance zone, 9.67. Okay, and right now you can see Netmind is trying to push higher off this trend. So if you're looking for support, what you can do is you can just pull some horizontals. You can see these candles are coming into play here, and look for the candle touches into the box. And let's see how many we've got in the zone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that tells us that it's decent support here as well. Let's pull some fibs and see what else we've got. 382, bang, right there for you. Okay, so Netmind, what you're watching, 6.24. Okay, keep your eyes on 6.24. A little bleed out into that zone could be a nice little buy opportunity. And look how nicely this ties into a little rising trend here for you as well. Look at that. Okay, so Netmind, anything down into 6.24 looks like a juicy zone for me. Nice little upsides potentially now. And this is an AI play, AI narrative play. If things are going to turn super bullish here, you got 20% to the first TP, you got 46% to the next potential zone, and a very clean exit. If you start closing below this trend at 6.1, you start losing that trend, you're losing the trend. What do? We jump out. If we start closing under a trend, that generally tells us that things are now going to go in the other direction, and we can jump out, or you can start cutting. Okay, where's my people in the chat? So I see there's lots of discussions here in the chat. I actually forgot about this, DOT 2.0. That is correct. Peace Force says Phantom zombie coin, unfortunately, with no users. Yeah, I have heard that. But they came with the Sonic and Phantom pump to $1. Okay, it's definitely got something in it at the moment. So I've been watching it from a chart perspective. You know, Phantom has been a little bit more exciting than things like DOT. But look, I stand to be corrected. You know, if DOT gives us a banger trade, I'm going to be all over that thing, and we'll cover it again. So, okay. AI's covered. Now, what I want to discuss with you, Solana. This is important, okay? It's shown a lot of strength today, and it's looking quite good. So a 50-day MA coming into play. Do I have to say it every time I see it, or will you guys understand now how much I love the 50-day MA? Here's the red 50-day MA on my chart. I'm going to try not to say it on the next chart I open if it's there, okay? I promise you, I'm just going to keep quiet. I won't say a word. Okay, so... I can't help myself. I really want to say it. Okay, so this red line here offering resistance to us for Solana. Okay, so pay attention here. 160. Okay, big level now for us. Rejection area, and we haven't quite tested these highs. We just saw that, I think, on Render. It had the same look. We hadn't quite tested the highs at 10.5. Okay, we've got the same situation here with Sol. We wanted to just push up into this high. So 160 to 163 for me is a big area for Sol. That is a potential reaction zone, potential resistance zone, potential short zone if the bears are in the house. That could be a zone of interest for you. So look out for that area. And then as far as big supports go for Solana, you can see I've pulled a fib from the absolute lows. I'm talking these dumps when we were in Dubai getting stormed out and to the highs. And you can see what we've got here. We've got this 382. Let me just pull this up a little bit more. We've got this 382 here at 140. So this is now a big support zone that you want to pay attention to. 140 for Sol. That's your downside. That's where you want to look to try and grab it if they give you 140 on a pullback. And then upside, you're looking at this 160. Once we blow this this red line, I'm trying not to say it, once we blow this red line, then we're looking for this to form support for us. Okay, what do we like here? This previous high, we've got some horizontals in play as well, and we're going to have this red line as well giving us some kind of support here. So we're looking for something along those lines. So let's just break through this 50-day MA, I said it, at 163. Then Sol is then on track to start pushing these highs again. And if Bitcoin is going to go to 70K, if Bitcoin's going to go to 72K, at some point we're going to get that nice little dominance rejection, and these alts are going to start popping off. And Sol, for me, would be on the top of my list as a potential pumper here. And then we're looking out at 200, and then maybe we're going to start visiting those 250 levels that I was talking about a couple of months ago. And then they rejected us immediately after. So maybe those levels are going to come back to us. Daniel says he likes AVAX. Okay, let's take a look at AVAX. I've got it ready. Let's see what the AVAX people have for us. Okay, so this, I just put this together like this first to start with this, to show you that it's very possible that we could be in a range. Okay, so we could be in a range in a lot of tokens at the moment, but AVAX is a nice little picture here for us on the 8 hour. This could be just telling us a very simple story here, that we are trading in a range, and we could easily come and just revisit some lows. So let's not discount this. And I do have a tweet available that might tell us this particular story. So let's just look at this tweet quickly from Rec Capital. Now, I do follow their account, and I enjoy what these guys have to say. But basically, to sum up this tweet here, he's basically saying potential snooze fest on the cards for the next 150 odd days. Okay, and if you look at his chart here from the left-hand side, this is in 2020. So this was that previous cycle. We were looking at a long period here, 160 days of some kind of like ranging, fluffing around, all that type of thing. And right now we have only entered his red box, and he's telling us we could be in some kind of range now for the next 150 days. Okay, is this AVAX situation the start of some kind of mini range or something that's going down? Just an interesting tweet from this guy, and just interesting commentary here. So, you know, let's not get too excited. Once Bitcoin gets to all-time high, let's just compose ourselves. Let's say maybe this Rec Capital tweet is telling us that it's time to maybe push a little bit lower. And when we start dipping down into the bottom of this box, let's just compose ourselves. Say maybe we are in our 150-day range here, and we just need to be a little bit patient. But just notable here that AVAX is now pumped up and rejected at this range high. So that was interesting to me. If we are bullish, what are we looking for on AVAX? Very simple. Okay, you're going to pull your fibs from the low to the high, and you want to look for solid horizontals. You want to look for confluence and tie in certain regions. So let's see what we have right now. Let's take a look here. 382, what tie-in do we have here on the 382? You can see we've got some horizontals here at play. Okay, how many candles do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candles, 9 candles, 8 hour candles. So that's telling us this is an area of interest. This is an area where we could get some kind of reaction. Then interesting to me is this 200-day MA that is now pushing higher. Okay, so watch the 200-day MA. That's coming in nicely, and that could tie in with a 0.5. So let's look at this 0.5 quickly. We just want this 0.5 fib. This sometimes comes into play for us. Let's look at that. Okay, there it is there. And we've got that tie in there with the 200-day MA. So that could be interesting because we've got nice horizontals as well. So what does this tell me? It tells me this on its own would be a reaction zone. But you add a 200-day moving average to it, and suddenly it gets a little bit stronger. It tells us that we might have some more action in this area. So levels for me that I'm watching for AVAX. Let's look here. 36.5. Okay, number one. Next level, 35.2. And then your 618. 34.2. So these are all potential bullish areas. These are all potential zones that if you are bullish and Bitcoin gives us a little bleed out, but gives us a nice bounce, these are all potential reaction zones where you are looking to maybe jump in or add to your positions. Obviously, if you are super bearish on the situation, well, you can see AVAX is now at resistance zone. Okay, nice little rejection there from AVAX. If you are bearish, jump out of your positions. Okay, kick back and let's see what happens. Let's see how it plays out. But use the information in front of you. And the information in front of you is there's a couple of reasons why Bitcoin is potentially going to be bullish over the next week or three. And let's just use that info in the chart. And if this is the case, then we are looking for bullish buys and we're looking for bullish bounces on a lot of these altcoins. Okay, I've got an entry for you on TON that is interesting to me, and just a lot of news going around with TON. There's just a lot of action in this network. I own a ton of TON and loving this thing at the moment. I also own Resistance Dog, which is the dog on the TON network. So if TON goes to $50 or turns into some turbo bull run token, you want to make sure you own the dog on the TON network. That just seems to be the play. So grab the meme coin on the TON network. That is Redo, R-E-D-O. It's the resistance dog, they call it. And right now there's a potential entry brewing for TON. So I wanted to just show you how hot the zone is. And right now, what are we looking at? This is TON on the 12-hour. Loving the look of this. And what did we do? We broke this trend after a mega pump here. Let's just confirm the size of this move. Okay, 32% pump on TON, nice little recovery. And now we're looking for a simple retest. Okay, we're not asking for anything special here. We're saying, what's a bullish retest now? This thing's pumped 33%. Totally fine if they want to rinse it, not rinse it, but totally fine if they want to just bring it back and retest an area of interest. So number one for me for TON, 5.6. Okay, look at the zone. If they start sweating us down here over the next 2 days, look out here for TON. Down, there's a 50-day moving average here. There's a 382 fib, there's a horizontal, and we have this trend floating around in this area that you can pay attention to. And then obviously our next big zone for TON is slightly lower down, 5.2. You can see I've got horizontals at play as well, tied in very nicely here for TON. Look at this buy the last time it hit that area. Look at that, bang. And this looks like a good area. So 618 tied in with horizontals, that's my next level. So 5.24 is where it's at for TON if this 50-day MA gets lost. Okay, that is your next area. So put your alarms on, mark this area on TON, 5.6 to 5.62, mark that area, get an alarm going there. That could be a potential entry on TON for you. If that area fails, okay, let's say you're trading high leverage, you're looking for tight stops. If that area fails, you need to just kick back and wait. Let the 618 come into play. 5.23, 5.22, that is your next reaction zone. If you are bullish on the market and you're trying to build a position, spot or 3x margin or something along those lines, where can you buy TON? Number one zone you want to buy it, 5.6. Number two zone, 5.22. Those are areas you can build a nice little position. As long as your bias is leaning towards bullish, you're happy and you are safe buying on those areas. If Bitcoin's going to reverse and they're going to rinse the world, then, you know, you jump out. Once you lose those areas, that's where you start cutting. Okay, let's go. Next one, 𝗟𝗡𝗙. Had to talk about this one again. This thing doesn't stop. And just a typical SR flip. And I wanted to show you guys this because this is going to be critical to your trading over the next week or two. If the market is super bullish, you really need to focus on these SR flips. What's an SR flip? A support resistance flip. And this was just a great example that I wanted to show you guys. Get these, start playing around with these on your charts. What happened here? 𝗟𝗡𝗙, resistance, resistance, resistance. What did they do? They blew through, but like a nice proper break. It wasn't a little break. They pumped it through. And what did it do? It came back and it retested old resistance, and it's now proven itself as support. So now you have a support marker for 𝗟𝗡𝗙. This is great. 36 to 37, anywhere in this region. This is now your new support marker that you can play with. So if you're trading 𝗟𝗡𝗙, 36 to 37 dips into that area, could be for potential buys there for you for 𝗟𝗡𝗙, especially if you are looking for bigger things and you have some kind of bullish bias on the market. That's going to be a nice little area for you to hold, 36 to 37. Here's your all-time highs, around about 44. That is going to be your target. What is my next big zone for 𝗟𝗡𝗙? Let's say they start melting us down. Bitcoin goes to 60K and it bounces off that 618. Where are we going to pick up 𝗟𝗡𝗙? Most likely, we're going to pick it up at this 382. Now, remember, 𝗟𝗡𝗙 is recovering really quickly relative to things like ADA, XRP, DOT, all those other shit coins. When the market falls over, what you need to do is you need to buy strength. What have we seen? We've seen 𝗟𝗡𝗙 really do well on recoveries. We've seen AI tokens do really well on recoveries. Buy 𝗟𝗡𝗙, you buy Ondo, you buy Render, you buy AI tokens and those type of things. And obviously you buy Pepe, you buy WIF, you buy some of these meme coins. We've seen these meme coins really respond to weakness in the market, and they bounce and recover really quickly. Last chart for you, CAS. Okay, we haven't spoken about this one in a very long time, and this is Chaos's bestie. He loves this thing, and I see he's not in the chats here today. I should have actually told him I was talking about CAS. But CAS has been in a very long, boring downtrend for the last while. You can see where our highs were. This was 28th of February. So it's been quite a journey down for CAS. And I was saying today in the Sniper Club, I was talking about this CAS situation. And, right now it's got too many things in its way right now to get too bullish on it. So until we start breaking big areas here on CAS, I can't turn sort of mega bullish on the current situation. So what I'm going to say to you guys is, CAS traders, this is the 12 hour. If you are looking for an entry, my first or my preferred zone is always going to be 0.097. You can see this area here. Why does it make sense? You can see we've got a nice juicy area. That's where I would expect the bottom of this particular move to be if they're going to beat us down. What do we do? CAS turns bullish early. Well, there's a lot in the way. So the reason I'm not trading CAS at the moment is because we've got this horizontal resistance in the way right here, 0.114, okay, just above. Then we've got the 200-day moving average and trend, 0.12. So we've got so many big levels ahead of us that we don't really want to mess around here with this thing until we're blowing through them. Then higher up, we've got the 50-day MA, okay, at 0.126. So when do we turn bullish on CAS? How can we trade this thing? Ideally for me, I really want to see it blow through these areas. I want to see a big push now through these zones, and must look something along these lines, maybe a little rejection in that area, and then my retest. I want to see it hold this 200-day MA, and then we can look at potentially pushing this thing a little bit higher. So for me, I'm sitting back at CAS. We know CAS used to pump so hard in the last few months, like 4, 5, 6 months ago. It was one of our only big runners. And, right now, giving it time to breathe, let it do its thing. When it breaks this trend again, I'm sure the energy is going to come back on this CAS situation. And then we're going to see some pumpage. And right, that's it, guys. Got your levels Monday. Let's see. Bitcoin going to hold these levels? I hope so. I'm long on a lot of these tokens. And remember, if we're blowing through resistance zones, you're looking at those as your supports. And don't overtrade. Don't kill yourself with leverage. See you guys tomorrow. Later.